Hello, my name is Gwen King, and I am the EL Migrant and Immigrant Coordinator in the Office of Federal Programs. Today I'll be discussing how to develop and implement a language service plan. We always like to begin our presentations with the vision and mission of the Mississippi Department of Education. Our vision is to create a world-class education system that gives students the knowledge and skills to be successful in college and the workforce, and also to flourish as parents and citizens. The State Board of Education has 6 education goals. They are that all students are proficient and showing growth in all areas. Every student graduates from high school and is ready for the college and workforce. Every childhood has access to a high-quality early childhood program. Every school has effective teachers and leaders. Every community effectively uses a world-class data system to improve student outcomes. And every school and district is rated C or higher. As we get started, it's important to know that the Mississippi Department of Education requires that every EL student have a language service plan. The language service plan should not be developed by one person, but should be developed by the Student Evaluation Team, also known as the SET. The team should also include anyone that works with an EL student. This team should meet quarterly to evaluate the student's progress and possibly reevaluate his or her needs. The first part of the service plan goes over the basic demographic information of the EL student. This information may be obtained from the student's enrollment information. It is important to provide the date a student first enrolled in a U.S. school, not necessarily a school in your district. Remember, it should be in a U.S. school. This information will impact whether the student will be classified as an immigrant student. It is very important to know whether the student is an immigrant student. An immigrant student is aged 3 to 21, was not born in any state in the U.S., has not been attending one or more schools in any one or more states for more than 3 full academic years. A district's immigrant count determines whether or not a district qualifies for Title III funds. A district must show an increase in immigrant students in order to qualify for the grant. This increase can be very small, as going from 0 immigrant students to 1 immigrant student, or 3 immigrant students to 5 immigrant students. Therefore, it is very important to make sure you identify all immigrant students. The next section of the plan is the academic history of the EL student. This part may require you to put on your PI hat and do a little investigating. You will start with the age the student began school. Years in the preschool or kindergarten, years in 1st through 5th grades, and 6th through 12th grades, and the last grade the student completed. You will also mark if the student experienced interrupted formal education or limited schooling or no formal education at all. Has the student ever been referred for SPED, or does the student currently have an IEP or 504 plan? This next section refers to the student's education from the previous year. This information may be obtained from the student's report card or cumulative folder. This next section contains the lost links information for the student. The space given is for 5 years. However, you may copy this page and attach it to the LSP if you need more space. I would like to remind you, however, that if a student has not exited within 5 years, that student is considered a long-term L, and this will affect your district's accountability. So always keep this in mind when filling out this section. This next section refers to the services the EL student will receive. You will document the amount of time the student will receive direct EL services. You must place the date the student was identified and entered into the EL program. Remember, a student has 30 days to identify an EL student and notify the parents at the beginning of the year, and 10 days if that student enrolls after the beginning of the year. A student in grades 7 through 12 may be placed in an EL class, and they may receive 1 credit for that class. In order for this to happen, a teacher must have the following endorsements: a 115, a 117, a 119, or a 177. A parent has the right to deny EL services, and this is called opting out of EL services. This means that the student will not be pulled out of the classroom for direct EL services. However, the student must still receive language instruction in the classroom and will retain the status of EL. You must be sure to mark that student as EL in your student data package and MSIS. And remember that the student will still be assessed with the Lost Links test yearly. A student who has not exited the EL programs after 5 years is identified as long-term English learner. Please document here how long the student has before he or she becomes a long-term L. This next section addresses goals that must be established for the EL student. These goals must be written according to the Lost Links scores. The district should use the Lost Links language proficiency level descriptors to establish these goals for each student in each domain. Each district should have a copy of the language level descriptors. This next section refers to the accommodations a student may receive on state assessments. You must refer to the Mississippi Testing Accommodation Manuals for a list of allowable accommodations. And this is the space you will document the code and the accommodation and the test for which the accommodations will occur. It is very important to remember that these accommodations should also be provided in the classroom. An accommodation not given in the classroom should not be given on the state assessment. Here is a list of classroom accommodations. Classroom accommodations may look a little different than state assessment accommodations. Not all classroom accommodations are allowed on state assessments. Please make sure that all members of the student evaluation team sign the completed language service plan. A copy of the plan should be placed in the student's cumulative folder. And a copy must be given to anyone that directly works with that EL student. We receive many questions from districts concerning how to document the monitoring status of an EL student. This page is an additional page that may be attached to the last LSP the student received. It's important to remember that an exited EL student may still have a parent or a guardian at home that is not fluent in English and still needs translated materials sent home in their native language. A district must monitor a former EL student's progress in the classroom and on state assessments for 4 years. This is where you will document the monitoring of these students. You must also document all services provided for struggling former EL students. If a student begins to struggle in the classroom, it must be determined that it is due to a language barrier in order to place the student back into the EL program. Therefore, a student should not be placed back into the EL program without giving the Lost Links placement test. And then once the placement test is given, parents should be notified that the student qualifies for re-entry into the EL program. If you have any questions concerning the Language Service Plan or how to complete it, please feel free to contact either myself or Sandy Elliott. Our contact information listed here. We will be happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you for your time today.